Ladies and gentlemen, there's a very, very interesting article, and this is in a Lawfare, a very respected, prestigious national security publication, and it's by the editor, and he's a senior fellow in governance studies at the Brookings Institution. There's one paragraph here, and he talks about James Baker, the legal counsel for James Comey, who met with Michael Sussman. Okay, mind you, James Comey has stated under oath he didn't know that Steele dossier was purchased by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. And he stated that numerous times in public, which is completely absurd and a complete lie. But you have one paragraph here that basically gives you an insight into the mindset of people who defend the United States government working with Madam Secretary's campaign and the DNC to funnel lies and deceitful statement into the U.S. government to have loyalists or people who didn't like Trump within the government investigate an incoming candidate. This is a quote from the article. But there are two big problems with this approach. The first is digging dirt on political opponents and trying to interest law enforcement in that dirt is not presumptively a crime. Yes, it is, if you know that you're lying and what you have conjured up is user-created in some respects or in some cases and not plausible. If you knowingly lie to the Federal Bureau of Investigation trying to entrap or trying to get government officials to investigate your political opponents, that's 18 U.S. Code 371 or 18 U.S. Code 1031 or other statutes. You can't defraud the United States government. You can't knowingly lie to government officials to get them to investigate your political opponents. Digging up dirt is nothing new to that, but when was the last time law enforcement investigated a Democrat or an incoming Democratic candidate or any candidate for that matter, based on what his direct political rivals fed to the United States government? It has never happened in the history of this country. It's never happened in the history of this country. I would love to know if Lawfare has an example. It's presumptively the ugly normal of political campaigns. No, it is not presumptively the ugly normal of political campaigns. I don't know of another example where Republicans fed information to law enforcement and law enforcement then investigated a Democratic candidate or Democratic politician. And to this extent, saying that they were installed by another country. In particular, the particular case of Donald Trump, who in fact had extensive connections with Russia about which he was actively lying. What connections was he lying about? And are they pertinent to the accusation that he was being installed by another country, or that that his policies benefited another country? It is this President Mashed Potato Brains, who was witnessing one of the worst geopolitical nightmares in modern European history under his watch. It wasn't Trump. And President Zelensky himself, the president of that country being invaded right now, stated that that Trump never pressured him. Ever. But they still impeached Trump. The same people who said that Trump was installed by the Kremlin impeached Trump, not completely disregarding the statement by the president of that country right now, battling for survival, saying that Trump never pressured me, and his predecessor said Trump never pressured me regarding that infamous phone call. But here you have, in fact, extensive connections. It was also perfectly a valid line of opposition research. No, it was not perfectly valid. It was completely made up. The Steele dossier was completely fabricated. The Steele dossier was full of lies and deceit. It was never used to indict anybody. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel right this second below in the pinned comment. This is Very important, because the mindset is, well, so what if they funneled lies into the United States government to get government officials who already didn't like Trump, who are now MSNBC and pundits on CNN and given, lofty pieces in the New York Times and Washington Post. Who cares? It was perfectly acceptable. While one cannot peddle information one knows to be false to the FBI without violating the law, that is not what Durham is alleging here about Sussman. Well, he then goes on, the article goes on prior to say, well, there's testimony that Sussman doesn't really remember why he met, that James Baker, Comey's legal counsel, the FBI, doesn't really remember why he met Sussman. And Sussman's lie is not material. You know what? So what? And Baker is on record as saying he doesn't really remember if Sussman was there on behalf of another client. The problem here is that they set up and framed an incoming candidate based on a myth that they all purchased. The connections that Trump was supposed to have had are not just connections like Bill Clinton, according to The Hill, meeting with Vladimir at his home outside Moscow right around the Uranium One deal. That is according to The Hill and Newsweek. I think that's a bigger connection than anything Trump has ever had. No, these connections seem to have been completely conjured up as being important somehow. The man who George Papadopoulos spoke to, Joseph Mifsud, completely retracted, according to the New York Post, any information that he is said to have had about Madam Secretary's emails. Carter Page was completely exonerated. They never indicted anyone for working alongside an intelligence official of that country. In fact, there was one intelligence official said to have worked on the Steele dossier. But here's the nonsense. Here's the mentality. Well, it's not a big deal. Of course, there was a lot of reason to investigate Trump. I mean, he was installed by another country. You know what? If Sussman or Tech Executive One or Christopher Steele, if they compiled all this nonsense, well, I mean, there was a reason. But the intelligence community came. Well, the intelligence community also said there was WMD. Before that, there was the Gulf of Tonkin. Before that, there was the Bay of Pigs. Intelligence community's wrong all the time. So what? They're supposed to stay out of politics. When was the last time Intel officials said that Democrats should be investigated? How about never? Or how about not recently? In recent U.S. history. So, this was an example of the United States government being used against an incoming candidate. And James Baker is going to serve as a witness. So, Representative Mark Meadows, but you said you were friends with him, right? Baker, yes, sir. Meadows, so I mean, you knew what his career was. Baker, generally speaking. Meadows, and you knew, generally speaking, that he had some involvement with the DNC. Baker, yes. And then Baker, in that first interaction, I don't remember him specifically saying he was acting on behalf of a particular client. Did you know? And so the text message shows there was a text message that came out, I believe, after this article, saying that where Sussman is telling Baker he's not acting on behalf of any particular client. Baker, I can't remember. I've learned a lot. I learned that that's okay. Did you know at the time he was representing the DNC in the Clinton campaign? I can't remember. I have learned that at some point. I don't, as I think I said last time, I don't specifically remember when I learned that, so I don't know that I had in my head when he showed up in the office. I just can't remember. Did you learn that shortly after? If you didn't know that at the time, Baker, I wish I could give you better answer, but I don't remember. So all these people under oath can't remember. Baker was in on it too. That's what the Lawfare article doesn't get, or doesn't want to admit, or doesn't want to possibly even entertain the notion of. They were all in on it. They just needed a pretext to investigate Trump. The whole thing's absurd. They truly believe, look, the Mueller probe did not indict anybody, not even Julian Assange, nobody, on working alongside Russian intelligence officials. It never happened. It never happened because there was no indictment, because the whole thing was conjured up by Trump's direct political rivals. So you're going to have a Federal Bureau of Investigation witness, and also a special agent, potentially, and also a witness at Fusion GPS, and also a witness at the tech researchers who used DARPA money, who might have used DARPA money to investigate Trump. Okay? And then the article in Lawfare says, well, he's trying to actually grasp at straws here. There's really nothing, not big of a deal. So what if he lied? And you know what? Where there's smoke, there could have been, and they had to investigate, The whole thing was what Durham is looking at is 18 U.S. Code 371 and other statutes where people conspire to defraud the U.S. government. You have people at lofty institutions truly believing that, well, any torment that Trump went through was worth it because, at the end of the day, the intelligence community with high to moderate confidence says that he could have been installed by the Kremlin or could have benefited from Facebook ads that nobody saw. And so you have guesses, a hunch, a feeling, moderate to high confidence assessments serving as the basis for possible connections with another country that should be investigated. When in reality, tens of millions of people actually believe this nonsense was rooted in fact. None of it was. There were more connections between the Clintons and that country than Trump ever had. Okay, hit subscribe to this channel right now. You have an FBI official testifying, along with a whole bunch of people testifying, and the whole point is to build a case about defrauding the U.S. government. Not just one lie, it's endless lies, and a complete myth that they all purchased. That was the definition of dis or misinformation. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pin.